How are you?
I'm so good.
I know we can't really do that
COVID
anymore.
hug. You know,
Before we go in to do the interview, can I show you this mural?
Please, please.
Look how far we got.
Yeah, this is looking so awesome. Wow.
Dana did this. Dana did this whole area here. It was like really...
Yeah, so make sure I get the bamboo in there.
The bamboo in here. So, that hurt. Almost done. Almost done.
I have to give a shout out to Chelsea too.
Definitely.
She was
Chelsea was very helpful.
She was so fucking worth it.
And she was a blast.
Yeah.
So thank you again.
Okay, can we go inside?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. I've really been looking forward to this. Thank you for taking the time, and we enjoy sharing so much. This is going to be an easy one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think anyone who's watching this video should know that Dana and I got off to kind of a slow start in our friendship.
Yes.
And then when in life sometimes it's the right time for things, and we can talk more about that later. But like, we were interested, there was an interest in the friendship, but it didn't like blossom for...
I was immediately drawn to you.
Okay.
But yeah, what was going on in your life and my life didn't click.
It wasn't quite, the timing hadn't sort of, it wasn't aligned yet.
Right, right.
And then I met Dana initially as my hairdresser because I needed a new hairdresser, so I thought, oh, we don't have Angie's list here, I'll start asking people. So I started asking people who had sort of like wavy hair like mine. And they were like, oh, Dana, you need to see Dana. I was like, oh, okay. Then I asked a couple more people, oh, Dana, he's the one you should see.
Well, they obviously had good taste.
Obviously. And so by the third person, I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to call
Yeah,
Dana.
got it.
Got it, message received.
Yeah, but then it's turned into so much more.
And then it's just turned into like a wonderful friendship,
Yes.
colleagueship. We collaborate on my artwork,
Yes.
and we can talk some more about that. But
Yes, I would like to.
that would be really
But
great.
probably a good place to start is let people get to know you better. You know, I'm doing this channel to inspire people,
Okay.
and especially people of a certain age. You wouldn't know, but yeah, everybody came from humble beginnings, and I certainly had my problems. My earlier adult years that I've overcome mostly. And I'm doing all the things I want to do. And I just know if I can do it, other people can do it. And so maybe you could kind of share your more humble beginnings and where you are now.
Definitely. Well, I'll bounce back and forth a little bit here.
Sure.
Because...
This is very informal.
Yeah. I mean... I actually am living the life of my dreams. I really am. I'm a full-time artist. I always wanted to work really, really large, and voila, here we go, like museum scale. I have 2 solo museum shows that I'm getting ready for. These are the things that I always wanted and had in my mind, and I remember years back thinking, kind of like, who do you think you are? Really? You think you belong in a museum? But I do. I belong in a museum.
Exactly.
And I would have to say that, I mean, I do have an international career now, which is completely
Pretty
thrilling.
amazing, yeah.
So I was saying that in some ways I am achieving a lot of my goals, which means I'm exhibiting my work all over the world. I have work right now in Australia, in Oaxaca, soon in Mexico City. The show that I'm preparing for here is going to be a solo show in Guadalajara in a year. And then the same show is going to travel to a museum in San Diego.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty
I
exciting.
think in terms of, but what's really funny is that, like, you could say I'm famous, you know, that I have a reputation, but I don't earn a living from what I do. But what's important to me is that I love what I do. And
Yes.
this is all I ever wanted to do.
Yes.
And that's what I do.
Even if we weren't being paid, we'd be doing
It
what we're
doesn't
doing.
matter. I actually think the
It
money
matters,
will come.
but yeah, exactly.
And the money will come, and I'll talk some more about that.
Yeah, like anything, it takes an investment.
A tremendous investment.
Yeah, time and money.
You know, years ago I was at an art conference in New York City, and somebody in the audience asked, there was a panel discussion with some art dealers, and they were like, what does it take for someone to get famous? And she said, you want to guess how much it costs? If I decide I want to make you famous, I have to, this is the dealer speaking,
Okay, yeah.
I have to invest $5 million.
What?
Yeah, that's what the infrastructure, and that was like 20 years ago.
That's incredible.
Well, now you sort of have to do that yourself, because those
Right.
kind of galleries, you
Right.
know, and then in the
It's a
pandemic,
different
everything's
ballgame
different. It's a
now.
whole different
Yeah.
ballgame.
Yeah.
But back to humble beginnings. I was trained as a wallpaper designer at Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. That's my background. And here we are 40 years later, and I think you can still see the influence of fiber and pattern and texture in my work. I mean, that was like that became part of my hard drive,
Right.
definitely.
Well, probably Louise can insert a few of your designs in there.
Sure, we can
And,
definitely do
people
some
will-
silk
will-
screen.
will see it,
you
yeah,
know,
they'll
they can
get it
see how that
right away,
works.
yeah.
And I was one of those people who did not want to compromise my art for earning a living. So in other words, I didn't want to make commercial art. I mean, I essentially did that as a wallpaper designer. I hated it. I really hated
Yeah,
it.
you're a true artist.
You know, so I got out of that field, and the way I supported myself for 32 years, I ran a medical billing company. I couldn't be further from art, but I'm good with numbers and I'm good at solving problems, and that was, you know, what was required. But I was able to raise a family, you know, as a
Right.
single mom, and it, you know, it did the
We
trick.
do what we have to do,
Do what you have to do.
work with your strengths.
But now that I am over 60, we won't be more specific than that.
Not necessary.
I am retired, I sold the business, and I work full-time in the studio. And
And you have a great staff too.
I have a fantastic, well, I will say that in order to do work this large, I need a lot of help. I do not do all of this myself, not by a long shot.
Yeah.
I have a full-time assistant named Sandra. I have
Who's
two,
really wonderful.
she's
So lucky to
like,
have each other.
she's my right hand, well, in my
Yes.
case, my left hand.
Yeah.
We collaborate on a lot of things. She does all my image development in Photoshop. I do a lot of silk screening, and we'll stop and insert something about silk screening here. So we do image development, and she works full time for me, full time.
Yeah.
But in addition, in the production studio, where the components of this work get produced, I have a mother-in-law, daughter-in-law team that come in almost every morning and work for a few hours.
Mhm.
So they do the silk screening and
Yes.
you know, a bunch of other stuff.
I've watched that. It's very interesting.
It's fascinating,
Yeah.
and it's not like I can't do all of the parts of my work. I once had to do everything myself, but I think I'm at a stage of life, and I think this is, I hope anyone who's watching this, you know, takes this seriously. First of all, you can't do everything.
Right.
You just can't. There's not enough hours in the day.
Right.
So I think at this stage, I want to just do the things I'm completely passionate about and that no one else can do.
Right. Yeah. It makes so much sense. I know.
And in my case, when I farm out some of the other parts of this work, I'm employing women whose only other livelihood options are, you know, cleaning people's bathrooms and cooking.
Right.
So these women have the coolest job in town.
Oh, yeah. By far.
You know, and then their families are supported, you know, through
Yeah,
this.
imagine how happy you're making them and how they're helping you, and talk about
It's
win-win,
so,
right?
it's so like woven together, and they're so grateful, and I'm so grateful You know,
I always
it's
love
just,
a win-win.
it's really terrific.
Yes.
So it's just back to that thing of really, you know, what they say, you know, focus on what you do best. And I think in terms of your series, your interview series, it's like, you know what? We are over 60. Life is not going to go on forever. I mean, hopefully for me, I'd like another 30 years, but, you know, it will come to an end. And that's something that we bring to our lives, that knowledge. You know, when you're 30, you don't think about stuff like that.
Right.
But when you're in 60s and 70s, you know that it's a time-limited proposition. So in that time that you have left, I believe the satisfying life is the life that you're living the dream, and stop deferring the dream.
Yeah.
It's like
You better be doing what you want to be doing.
Let's just get with the thing that, like, oh, I always wanted to, whatever it is, and it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be art. It could be knitting. It could be writing. It could be anything. It doesn't matter. You know what it is for you. That's the point. And that's what this time of life is about.
Yes. And I feel so fortunate, not exaggerating. I thank the universe every day that I'm able to do all these things that I want to be doing.
Yes.
I'm able to do it. I have the energy to do it.
Yes.
No one else in my family at this age could have done what I'm doing.
Well, they may not have been alive.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
They weren't. Yeah.
So that's
I
like
feel
real.
so fortunate.
It's real. Well, that brings up the whole issue of spirituality.
Yes.
You know, for me. I practice gratitudes at every meal. I think about what I'm grateful for when I wake up, and often when I go to bed, because there's so much to be grateful for.
That's right.
I feel like what I have accomplished is hard won, but I'm still grateful for, you know, the basic things, my health, the people who helped me, this gorgeous studio that my husband and I built, the light, and the freedom.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of a push-pull thing. It's like I'm grateful for it, but I fought for it. And I invite, you know, anyone who's watching this to fight for it, to go for it, you know.
Yes.
It's just like time is of the essence now.
If Cobra is not inspiration, there is no inspiration.
So I'm also a great believer in thinking big, like not limiting your thinking. I often think about things from the perspective of, if money wasn't an object or an issue, what would I do? Now, you know, money is always an issue.
Yeah,
but
that's
in
real
the
life.
process of brainstorming, you know, in the interest of getting at what you really, really want, just pull that curtain aside, just for now. You say, well, if money wasn't an issue, what does it sound like? What would you do? It's sort of like, I dare you to think that big. I dare you to think about doing work for museums.
Yeah.
Like, who do I think I am? I think I'm someone who does really great work that should be in a museum. That's who I think I am. And you know what? Now I am.
Talk about self-fulfilling prophecy.
And it can go both ways. If you practice negative thinking, negative
and I've been there too.
Things will happen.
Yes.
And if you practice positive thinking, more likely you'll get, maybe not everything, but you'll get a larger share of what it is that you're, you know, dreaming about. So, actually, you know what? I just thought of something. Someone told me years ago, it was a therapist. She said, you will only ever achieve up to what you imagine. You won't exceed it.
Right.
So if you say, oh, I would like to do work that's 2 by 4 feet, that's as big as you're going to go.
Right.
But if you say, I want to be like Cobra, I want to be like Deborah, I want to do stuff that's like 9 feet high and 14 feet across, you might not get that large, but you're going to get close.
The way I think of it is I'm trying to manifest something. I'll say, okay, I really want to do this or better.
Yeah. But it's like pushing yourself to that greatest vision. And I think it's really important to think about what is your greatest vision. And don't pull back from that. Really like stay with that. Sit with somebody that you love and respect and say to them, this is my greatest vision.
Good, let me help.
Yeah. And they help just by listening, just by saying, tell me more.
Yeah, sometimes just hearing yourself say it, right? Yeah.
I think it's really important that you can see it.
Yes.
I used to close my eyes, and in my imagination, I would walk into a museum and I would look around and I would see my work on the wall.
That's awesome.
And now that's what's happening. You know, a few years ago, I like most artists, I showed in galleries and talk about humble beginnings. I was like anybody else. I showed at the library, I showed in group shows. I did that for years and decades. And I showed in galleries, then I had some solo shows, and then I was in a group show at a museum, and then another one, then I won an award, poco a poco, little by little.
Right.
Well, now I'm almost exclusively showing in museums. So I'm really manifesting it.
Yes.
So that brings us to the issue of money, and people are always very curious about that. So let's talk about it.
Even if they don't want to admit it, it's there.
In the living room.
Yeah.
My work is all for sale, but my work is not inexpensive. And I, at this point, am funding all of what I do myself, like my Social Security check and a little part of my rental income. And well, I was teaching at universities as a visiting, professor and getting paid very well for that, but then the pandemic came, so that income stream, sort of dried up. But I'm going to guess that I spend $25,000 to $30,000 US a year to support this studio.
Yeah, how many people can do
Most
that?
of which is salaries.
Right.
But also
But if we had to pay those salaries
in the US, I could never afford it.
Right.
Never afford it. Here, I can barely afford it.
Another thing to be thankful for.
Very, very thankful, and it's it's a very symbiotic relationship.
Right.
So I can afford it, thank God, and I'm helping all these families. That feels fantastic.
Yes.
But I still don't generate enough money in sales yet.
Right.
But I visualize that to cover that, and so I have an array of other income streams that I'm developing, because my greatest vision for money is that so much money is flowing in here that I just don't have to worry about it anymore. It's not like I want to make a lot of money. I mean, money's great. I mostly want money to fund my studio.
Right.
And if I have an idea for a sculpture that's going to cost like $10,000 to make a prototype, I'll go, sure, let's do it. I don't want to worry about it. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, you're not looking for money just for money's sake.
No.
It's what the money can do.
It's what the money brings me. What the
Yes.
money brings me is the
Right.
opportunity to make the art of my dreams.
Yes.
And to work as large as I want. And to hire whoever I need. So we started collaborating on sculptures together. Well, we started 2.5 years ago when we did the spiral piece.
Yes.
And then we took a pause, but for this big show at the museum coming up, I'm doing an installation of 5 vessels that are life-size, and you'll see some images of them later in this video. And you're creating the armature
Yes.
of these.
And I just sent you a little update today.
Yeah. What did you call it? Humongous!
Yeah, the title in the email is just humongous. This piece is humongous.
It's really big.
Yeah.
And I was like, should we rename the piece? And the concept for this part of the installation for the show is that I want to honor Mexican ceramics, which is a big, big part of the culture here in Mexico. Most of these ceramics are, like this big, or maybe they're this big. Well, I'm making them this big. So in a way, I'm saying, don't underestimate the amazingness of this small object that everyone has in their house that don't think twice about.
Yeah.
And we're going to make them so large that it's in your face.
That's right. You will have to notice.
You will have to notice how, and we're choosing shapes from different eras of Mexican ceramic history.
Yeah.
So it's really like an ode to
Yeah.
Mexican ceramics, which is, really important.
Wonderful. Yes.
Important artistically, historically, for this culture. So that feels really great. And when you were like, that piece is awfully big, part of me felt like, well, maybe we should scale it down. Then I had to talk myself out of that, and I was like, wait, what are you talking about? The whole point was to make them huge.
Yeah.
So don't back off from that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So it's great to be able to collaborate with you.
Oh, heck yes.
How is it for you to be working on these?
I think I manifested this probably when I met you. You were so fascinating to me, and I just knew I wanted to work with you one day. I really did when I met you.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm thrilled to be doing it.
Well, we'll keep going because,
Yes.
these 5 are just the beginning.
Uh-huh.
These are an installation for this particular exhibition, but I have so many other ideas. So
Oh yeah.
there'll be no end.
We're never short on ideas.
We're never short on ideas.
No.
So I wanted to go back and talk a little bit more about where the revenue streams are.
Okay, yes.
Not that they're flowing as like a spigot right yet, but they will. Why? Because I believe they will.
Right.
And it's just a matter of time.
And you're putting in the effort.
I'm putting in a lot of effort, as are other people on my team.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll show some other examples of this in the video, but we're taking like close-up details of a lot of my artwork, and then we're like kind of moving them onto print-on-demand objects. So like imagine a detail of this on an ottoman that you'd put your feet on, or a tablecloth that you could put in your house.
Yeah, didn't you have it even printed on shoes?
Oh, I'm using two
Endless,
different
right.
supply platforms to work on. So they each have, so there's a little bit of overlap.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do t-shirts and mugs, but you can also do metal prints and, there's like scarves and masks. We're going to do a little line of masks. We quickly got to get our masks going.
Yes.
And, there's just so many pillows and a lot of home decor and, you can do stuff like leggings. It's almost endless.
Yeah.
There's a lot to do. That's another example of what my assistant Sandra does with me, is she helps me design a lot of this line. So we have 2 different lines. We have a line called Deborah Kruger Designs, and it's more home decor and higher end, higher price point products using details of the artwork. And then we have Save the Birds Design, because if you look closely, and we'll show some details, all through here, all through the screen printing are images of endangered birds. That's what my artwork is ultimately about. That I want to, we're losing birds by the millions, and it's and other species as well. So a lot of my work is about extinction, habitat
And now you've
fragmentation.
added languages.
Endangered languages are all, there's, right now, the statistics are, right now, there's 7,000 languages spoken around the world.
Okay.
And by 2100, so we're 2021, so in 2100, so in 80 years, that will be down to 3,000 languages. And a culture is embedded in a language, so we're going to lose all these cultures. I think it's a sad thing. So my artwork is trying to raise consciousness about these issues, and I'm going to show you some of my drawings in a little while, But the drawings, in a way, are the foundation of a lot of the imagery that you're seeing in the artwork.
Yeah, certainly.
So from the drawings, which are more linear of the endangered birds, we have another line of products called Save the Birds Design, and that's things like, and they're all more specific to endangered birds.
Right.
You know, they're not as decorative as this.
Mhm.
So there's more like mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, you know, things like that, a little bit lower price point.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking to market to more like environmental groups and people,
Oh yeah, I would think there would be
birders,
a big market.
would be Save
for
the
that.
Birds design. And then for Deborah Kruger designs, people who want really unique, rich, something that you're not going to find
Unique,
easily on
yeah, unique,
Amazon,
unique.
you know, you can buy from very talented web designer, social media guru named Tyler Buell, and she and I have designed 4 or 5 websites together now, at least that many, because she's designed my personal art website, the websites for the 2 different lines. I also run an artist residency program, she did that, you know, so we've been collaborating a long time. I'm someone who likes to work on 2 or 3 or 4 things at the same time.
Oh yeah.
If I'm a little stuck on something, I move on to the other. I don't know, something about the flow. I like that flow, and that works for me. And also, I think the pieces start speaking to one another, and I think there ends up being a continuity
Mm-hmm.
when you work on several things at the same time, because there's this conversation going on.
Yeah, and
between the
you do
pieces.
get stuck sometimes. And
Or you just need to, I need a break from that.
Yeah,
like, you
yeah.
know, like this. The universe is not served by you being small. It's served by you being large and letting your light shine. So I'm all about that.
oh yeah.